Meteorologist Serena Arnold, let's do an update on Hurricane Helene, or what's going to be Hurricane Helene. Today we're going to focus on how the forecast has changed, which isn't very much. And then we're also going to talk about impacts, like broad impacts, because I know there have been a lot of questions like, hey, I'm coastal Georgia. Hey, I'm in the mountains of southern Appalachia. Like, what can I expect? Let's get into it. As of early Wednesday morning, Helene is still a tropical storm. That's going to change. Its wind speeds are sustained at like 70. So it's going to be named a hurricane very soon, and we are going to see it move north. It is going to transition still into a major hurricane, we're forecasting. And the landfall position has been pretty consistent. But what I'm going to stress is this storm is larger than Florida is long. So even though this is the path where the eye is going to go, please understand that's all this cone of uncertainty shows you. The impacts of this storm are going to be felt throughout the state. I will get into the severity of that, plus what's going to be happening further inland. So landfall is probably going to be late on Thursday, probably over here around the Panhandle near that Big Bend area for sure. Where the eye makes landfall, that eye wall, that most of that weather that's right around the eye is the most severe. It's where you have the most damaging winds. You can have embedded tornadoes in there. I'm sorry. You have like really hard rainfall. I mean, that's definitely the worst part. So where that eye makes landfall is obviously very important. But what you have to understand is that everywhere to the east of that for several miles, you're going to get strong storm surge and you're going to have very large impacts. So just because where this eye makes landfall is obviously a very important focus for the destruction and devastation, that is not the end all. Because of a massive high pressure up here over New England and a little bit of a low pressure over here, it's actually going to steer this storm to the west. It's going to kind of go backwards. It's going to retrograde before it kind of dissolves and fizzles off here on the Carolina coast. So if you look at rainfall forecasts and impacts, they are significant. Okay, that orange is 8 to 12, the red is 12 to 16. Note that as typical with these kind of storms, we're not looking at the most rainfall here. It's going to be in the mountains. So once you're getting out here into like Asheville and these types of places in the mountains, don't forget when you get these torrential tropical storm rains, the amount of flooding you see in these areas. Because this storm is going to move up here, it's going to kind of retrograde and turn and sit around before it heads out. The amount of rain and flooding potential up here and anywhere you see yellow is substantial. Now, with the size of the storm as it makes landfall, there's going to be parts of it that are going to be moving past like Jacksonville and over the Atlantic part of the ocean over there off the Georgia coast. With those oncoming winds, that oncoming moisture, and all the energy embedded in the storm, there is a significant severe thunderstorm and tornado risk for parts of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. These are the areas you are definitely going to be seeing thunderstorms from this. And I'm sorry, but here's the tornado risk. So for coastal Georgia and southern South Carolina there, you are definitely going to have to pay attention on Thursday. Understand tornado warnings mean they are happening. A watch means it may happen. Conditions are there. Actually, let me show you the quickest way to remember. Taco watch, taco warning. If you get put under a tornado watch, it just means all the conditions are there. If you get put under a tornado warning, it means you have a tornado. Last few words here on non-coastal Florida effects, and then we're going to go back to what you can expect all along the Florida coastline with some specifics. Where's flooding going to be a problem? All of these places. The brighter that red, the more concerned we are about flooding. And meteorologists have been paying attention to what's going on in Florida. It's been wet. You guys have had plenty of rain. The ground is super saturated. You're going to start feeling the rain bands from the storm today. The worst of it's going to come tomorrow, but the rain is not going to let up after the fact. You actually have rain bands that are going to be setting up over central Florida, probably maybe even the southern part. So your flood risk continues, unfortunately. As for wind speeds, who is going to be feeling the effects of these hurricane wind speeds? This is a graph showing tropical storm force winds. This is 39 miles an hour or greater. If you're in that purple, it is a 100% of seeing those, and it phases out by 10% with every color. So I'm absolutely expecting tropical storm force at least winds from Panama City all through the coast, all the way to Tampa. And don't forget that they come pretty far inland here. So definitely seeing it come through Tallahassee and places a little further north. This is the hurricane force wind map. I think this doesn't give or deliver the urgency with which it needs. I'm expecting from Apalachicola to Cedar Key, you're going to experience hurricane force wind speeds. That's 74 miles an hour or greater. National Hurricane Center does have this red hurricane warnings in place from like Panama City all the way to about Clearwater. And then outside of that, where we have the blue, that's tropical storm warning. Once again, please remember this storm is larger than Florida is long. So the effects of this are going to be felt throughout a very large area. Let me show you just what I mean with the forecast model. All right, so here we have the current state of the atmosphere. We're going to play through. Notice here we are today. This is like just after lunchtime. These rain bands are starting to make their way across the state of Florida. Once again, just notice how long the storm in the system is. Here we are looking at early Thursday morning, like the very early morning hours before sunrise. Already starting to see some of those really heavier rains come on shore right around Panama City. And then as we keep coming through, we're going to see the storm's going to rotate around, seeing that the center of the storm is going to be making landfall sometime very late Thursday. And as we just keep scrolling along here, we can see that this is going to move inland. Now, as it does, and as this keeps moving, here's where we're going to have the risk for tornadoes and severe thunderstorms along the Georgia and Carolina coast as this moves inside. And this is also just going to be putting down a tremendous amount of rain throughout these areas. Now, the storm's going to go ahead and kind of rotate through. This is very early Friday morning. It's going to stall out, kind of spin out here. It's going to retrograde, get a little brief break from that rain. Finally come Saturday, unless you're much further west than this. And then the storm will finally dissolve and move its way out before giving another short round of rain here. Probably got cut off there, but probably before you've fully recovered from the flood. Remember, this is a very large storm, so just because you're not right on the coast doesn't mean you're not going to get an impact. The storm is going to have more inland impacts than other storms you have been through. I'm going to leave you with the very last paragraph from the National Hurricane Center's forecast discussion. It says, Helene's wind field is predicted to grow to a very large size in the National Hurricane Center forecast. Therefore, storm surge wind and rainfall impacts will likely extend well away from the center and outside of the forecast cone, particularly on the east side. In addition, the fast forward speed while Helene crosses the coast will likely result in farther inland penetration of stronger winds over parts of the southeastern United States after landfall. A lot of questions about Florida. So I would draw a line from about Tampa up to Jacksonville. And if you are west of that line, I would definitely prepare yourself for hurricane-like conditions. If you are east of there, you can relax a little bit. And I say a little bit because if this suddenly turns right in an unexpected way or sooner than expected, that will change things. That's literally everything I know this morning. I will give you another update as I think there is one necessary.